Hi, I'm Peggy Kelly with the Santa Paula Times, and it's Thursday, May 13th. And our guest today on Good Morning Santa Paula is Police Chief Travis Walker. Travis Walker joined the city. He became the 15th police chief of the Santa Paula Police Department on February 1st this year. And this is his first appearance with us. And welcome, Chief. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Good morning. It's really great to be here this morning with you.
Great. I'm very glad to see you. And you've been very busy. So you've got a pretty extensive policing background. Could you perhaps tell the audience somewhat about your background in policing?
Sure. This is my 24th year in law enforcement. I spent 20 years with the city of San Bernardino, where I got my start in policing. Had a very diverse experience in a variety of policing, from patrol to bicycle enforcement to community-oriented policing, narcotics, canines, worked as a detective, worked on our tactical teams, our narcotics teams, bicycle patrol, and as supervised most of our specialized enforcement unit teams. And as a manager, I was a division commander for one of the largest areas of the city, and had all of our specialized enforcement units, traffic bureau, and community policing units in the city. So it was quite a diverse career within San Bernardino. I served as the tactical commander during the terror attack in 2015, where we had such a tragic incident that occurred not only within the city but within our country. But it was definitely an experience that helped prepare me for leadership in this profession. So then I've served as a deputy chief and chief of police in a small agency in the Coachella Valley, and then I had the great honor of joining the Santa Paula Police Department on February 1st of this year as the 15th police chief. And I've enjoyed my last 90 days here in Santa Paula.
Great, that's wonderful. Have you had enough, of course, with COVID, but things are loosening up. You've had a chance, though. I know you've been attending quite a few events and meeting with various groups of people.
I have actually. It was kind of on a whirlwind tour. About the first month I was here, meeting virtually with a lot of the community groups and doing introductions. As the COVID restrictions started letting up a little bit, we started doing some outdoor meetings, meet and greets with some of the business owners and the chamber groups. And then I think the best way you get to meet the community is breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And Santa Paula doesn't have a shortage of excellent eateries, and I definitely partake in a lot of the great culinary opportunities that this city provides us with.
We do. We have some great restaurants here in Santa Paula. Now, I saw you through the crowd Friday night at cruise night. We had a wonderful turnout for that. Did you enjoy that?
Yes, it was my first cruise night, and everybody asked, okay, what was your favorite car? There was a powder blue 55 Chevy that was parked on Mill Street, just south of Maine. That was definitely my favorite. But they were all nice cars to see, and it's really great to see the restoration or the preservation of some of the greatest cars ever made in this country, to be able to come to life, here in our small town. So it was awesome to be able to walk up and down the street, and everybody was having a good time, and it was just, that's part of community, and I really enjoy working for a city that can come together like that and just show real community bond, and have a good evening with people outside of the normal COVID restrictions that we've been in for the last year.
Yes, it was. It was a relief, and it was a lot of fun, and it really is a wonderful gathering that draws people from all over the Tri-County area. Now, I know that, of course, you've been very busy. And you presented your quarterly report last Wednesday night to the City Council. That was a week ago that you presented that. And would you like to maybe go over some of the highlights of that for our audience?
Yeah, actually, thank you. That it brings me to an opportunity to talk about some of the things that when I first came to the city and I was meeting with the groups, I found that there were a lot of concerns over violent crime and other crime concerns. And, you know, when I started looking at the numbers to see if I could verify or correlate what the problems were, what was driving some of the concerns that I was hearing about, I was a little amazed that our crime numbers really didn't match up to what I was hearing during the meetings. So I think one of the things that we have to really work on is continuing to educate the community truly on what the challenges are when it comes to law enforcement or public safety truly is in the community. And, you know, as I presented my first quarter report, I was able to proudly acknowledge the fact that the men and women of this police department who've been out doing a yeoman's job in providing quality service to the community was able to post a 24.3% reduction in Part 1 crimes for this first quarter over last year. And now some people say, well, what are Part 1 crimes? Or, you know, you're picking those numbers to give us a more positive outlook on what crime is. So I think it's important that the community understands that we have to report 8 different crime categories to the Federal Bureau of Investigations monthly. And what they call that is a uniform crime report. And so the 8 crimes that we have to report that we have in our community are homicides, robberies, rapes, aggravated assaults, which would include domestic violence type calls, burglary, larceny, and that's any theft, whether it's a petty theft from a local business to a theft from a vehicle to a grand theft. And then we also have to report any stolen vehicles along with arson related crimes in the community. And so as I took,
are those all Part 1 crimes?
Those are all Part 1 crimes, or what they identify as Part 1 crimes. And so as I took a look at the numbers over the first quarter, the numbers we saw a little spike in February, but then come March, we saw significant decreases across the board, which upon reviewing the numbers and comparing them to last year, we were able to post, like I said, a 23.4 decrease in those Part 1 crimes. Mm-hmm. So again, it's a credit to the work that the men and women of Santa Paula Police Department are doing. And we have focused on some crime reduction strategies to better deploy our resources to be able to address those issues. And I think it's also important that the community understands that, you know, we're looking to work smart, not hard, and we're identifying crime trends and patterns. And as we identify these crime trends and patterns, we place the officers in those locations to help serve as a deterrent, because ultimately the purpose of law enforcement is to be a deterrent to crime. We're supposed to be here to protect the public peace and morals. And if we're doing an effective job, we're preventing crime from occurring rather than being reactive and just responding to crime after it occurs. So we've been able to implement some specific strategies with our patrol division, our detective division, along with our special enforcement unit, which I'll talk about some of the good things that the special enforcement unit is doing to help deal with some of the quality of life issues in the community. But as we look at the crime trends and patterns, we're doing more data-driven deployment to address those problems, along with more proactive policing efforts by our officers. So those are the strategy that we implemented for this first quarter, and I was very happy with the results of what we're able to see. So kind of moving forward, what we're going to be looking to do is maintain our staffing ratios to continue to provide an adequate number of resources to deal with quite a few of the concerns that the community has had and try and do some relationship building within our community. with our officers. As our schools are starting to open back up, we have 2 officers that are assigned to our high school and middle schools to be able to help build relationships with the youth of the community. We're also doing more engagement through our Explorer program. Unfortunately, COVID has really limited our ability to meet with the Explorers, but we have a very robust Explorer program that once we can get the COVID restrictions relieved, we're definitely going to be recruiting from our community more Explorers. And if you've noticed, we recently did a video that was posted on the city site that talked about our Explorer program and highlighted 3 of our officers who actually started their careers as Explorers with the Santa Paula Police Department. We're also going to maintain our response time to priority calls within 7 minutes, which is the national average, along with enhancing our community engagement. I do have something that's on the horizon we're working on right now that we're gonna hope to release to the community that's going to help them better engage with the police department. So look for some technology coming your way, and that's the only secret I can give right now. But there's something but there is something coming, because one of the things I wanted to be very responsive to the concerns that the community members had during our conversation, and community engagement and the ability to connect to the community and the police department was extremely difficult. So we have something that's coming that's going to help us better engage and provide customer service to our community that we serve. So be on the lookout for that coming real soon.
That sounds great. Now, talking about all your, and I know we're going to go in a little more about some of the special units activities. You've got a whole machine, though, behind the scenes over there at the police department also. I know you were saying how proud you are of all the in-house staff, and do you want to explain to the public a little bit? Because they're the ones behind the scenes that make the scene work.
I do. You know, law enforcement is the most public, it's the most visible arm of government that we have in our nation. And most of our community members think that the police officers that they see in the field are typically the only ones that work at the police department. And actually the glue that holds this department together is our support staff that works behind the scenes. You know, we have what I call our first responders, who are our dispatchers that work in the emergency communications center. They're the ladies and gentlemen who take that first call of an emergency, or your 911 call, or your question when you call the police department, and they dispatch and monitor staff and make sure that we get the appropriate resources out to help serve whatever issue it is our community has, whether it's an animal control issue, a need for a police officer, a need for paramedics, a need for the fire department. They're the ones that determine who goes to that call. And I think it's important also for the community to understand that we have a full-time emergency communication center that is staffed 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, with it's staffed with a total of 6 employees, and they're not all working at the same time. We typically have 1 to 2 dispatchers that are working at any given time here in the city. And those 6 dispatchers, just this quarter alone, they handled 12,392 emergency and non-emergency calls that came into that center. Of those 12,392 calls, 2,654 of them were calls that came in via 911. So those were the emergency calls that came into the city. And 372 of those calls were medical aids or some sort of fire or something that the fire department needed to handle. So we receive all of those emergency calls in that communication center that's being staffed by a total of six people for a full year around the clock. So it's an amazing job that the men and women of our communication center, it's an amazing job that they do, and they have patience of a saint when you sit in there and listen to them taking some very stressful calls and being able to manage a lot of the resources that they're having to manage as a single or 2 people for a shift.
Absolutely. And they're dealing with people that are upset very often and are demanding, and because of the situation. I'm not criticizing anyone that calls 911. And I know people get aggravated too because they have to answer certain questions to help in the response. Is that correct?
Yes, that's absolutely correct. And we did another video. A lot of one of the things I found very important over the last 3 months has been to try to provide information that is useful for the community on the why behind what we do. And we did another video as part of our city outreach that you can find on the city's website that talks about when you call dispatch, what you can expect. It also talks about the reason why we asked so many questions, the information we're trying to gain, and how that's used to make sure we get the right resource out. So we're going to continue to do a lot of engagement virtually or provide resources that helps tell a better story of why the police do what they do versus people guessing or being provided misinformation about why we do what we do, or the questions we ask, or the information that we gather. So we're going to start doing a better job this year of providing the community with the why behind the what.
Mm-hmm. Okay, very interesting. Okay, now you were talking too about some community resource type of work as far as one of the special units has now been working with the homeless population.
Yes, I'm proud to say that in these first 90 days of me being here in Santa Paula, I had the opportunity to meet with each of our employees in a one-on-one setting to discuss what we were doing well for the community, we could do better, some of the strengths and weaknesses. It was also my opportunity to talk to staff about kind of my vision and share with them the vision that the community was expressing that I was hearing through our community meetings. And my job as a chief, because what I was finding is that the community they thought law enforcement services needed to go this direction. As I was meeting with staff, they felt law enforcement services needed to go in that direction. And my job is to develop a shared vision between the community and the organization and kind of bring everybody back to center so that we can satisfy the needs of the community and providing quality progressive policing services while also providing a satisfying work environment and job satisfaction for the employees as well. So as we were having these conversations, one of the main issues that came up during our community meetings was the quality of life, blight, and homeless issues that seem to be plaguing not only the city of Santa Paula, but the region and the state of California, and it is a national issue. So it's not something that's germane to our city. So we have what's called a special enforcement unit, and it's a unit of three officers that provide services, a variety of problem-solving services throughout the community. I took this unit, and these three officers actually volunteered their time and services and said, hey, I would like to be part of this in helping to deal with some of our homeless issues.
Oh, that's wonderful.
And so we reassigned them to address the homeless concerns, and it was not done in an enforcement centric area. It was done more for the outreach. We needed to identify what the needs were. We needed to identify where they were living within our community. It's a sub-community within our community. The difference is this sub-community doesn't have a physical address like the majority of our community who live in a house that has a physical address. So we had to really go out and start identifying and responding to some of the complaints that we were receiving from the community about the challenges that the homeless and our transient community were causing for other businesses and residents. So what we did was we built some partnerships throughout the county with Ventura County Medical Center, Ventura County Behavioral Health, the Ventura County Sheriff's Department. We partnered with some of the other local police departments that have established homeless liaison programs so that we can better understand how they were dealing with the challenges in their community. These officers spent time doing ride-alongs with those other agencies, spent time in meetings, building relationships, and I was extremely proud that they came out and started providing resources, making them aware of Spirit of Santa Paula and some of the other resources we have. They started doing what was called backpack medicine, where they partnered with Ventura County Medical Center and Behavioral Health, and the officers, along with resources from those two key partners in this county, actually went out and started making contact with our homeless community and providing them with necessary resources and medical care that's lacking based on their living conditions. So it was an extremely proud moment to see the officers engaged in more of a helpful role, and it wasn't an enforcement role, but it was I think what really made me beam with pride was I was stopped by one of these three officers as I was heading to a meeting out of the back door, and they said, "Chief, remember we ran into a female who was pregnant, and she was addicted to a specific narcotic. Because she was addicted to that narcotic, she wasn't eligible to go into some of our local housing options. She was resistant to the services that we had offered her the first couple times that the officers had contact, but they finally were able to get her to accept the services. And after getting her medically cleared at the hospital, they were able to get her placed into a service provider to help get her healthy, get her the services she needs so that she could have a healthy baby and she could get out of the living conditions that she was in." So that was an extremely proud moment for us as we're able to conduct, the humanitarian side, which is truly what law enforcement is here for. We're not just here to do the enforcement. We're here to improve the quality of life for all residents of our community. And it was just truly a blessing to be able to see the officers engaged in that and have some success. And we're going to be doing some more backpack medicine in the upcoming week to be able to get services out to additional members of that sub-community.
That's wonderful. I mean, it's the humane thing to do, and it's proactive because you're helping people find a better path, and that sometimes, that's all they have to do is know where to go and what's offered to them, and they can get on the road to recovery or, back into some real home situations. Now, speaking of special units, there's a celebration coming up, I believe on May 25th. It's for the K9 unit. It's sponsored by the Santa Paula Police and K9 Foundation. So would you like to talk about that? That'll be your first K9 dinner. That's a big deal. Now, of course, this year it's going to have to be drive-through only.
Yes, unfortunately, this year we can't do a sit-down. Well, I should say, fortunately, we're able to host it because last year we were unable to host it due to the COVID pandemic. So thinking outside of the box and knowing how popular this event has been for the community and the support that we've received from the community, we wanted to find a way that we could still be able to cater to the community and have the community not only support our K9 program, but it had an opportunity for them to get out, have some good food, and kind of return to normalcy as we start transitioning out of this COVID pandemic lockdown period. We welcomed a new canine this year to the police department. He's an 18-month-old German Shepherd by the name of Doc. Doc is going to be making his first appearance at this canine dinner as well. It's going to be held May 25th from 5 to 7 at the community center here in Santa Paula. We're going to be serving barbecue chicken that we're going to cook, and you'll be able to drive through. We'll provide you with your meal and a drink, and we'll probably have some canine demonstrations going on, as you're in the drive-through line picking up your food. You can see the dogs in action. And so we're really excited and really looking forward to being able to get out and engage with our community again, while also supporting the Santa Paula Police and Canine Foundation, which is truly, without them, we wouldn't be able to provide the canine program here in Santa Paula. And for those that don't know, these canines save, the single canine is about equivalent to 6 police officers when it comes to conducting searches. So when we use them for building searches, if a business has been broken into and we use them for a building search, that one resource kind of makes up for 6 officers that it would take to do that search of the building. Or if we're having to track a missing person, the ability to have the canines tracking, it helps us reunite family members, whether it's elderly or a child who's lost. It's just truly a benefit to enhancing the services we provide as a police department to this community.
Yeah, well, I know the community is very, very supportive of the K9 unit, and tickets to the event are only $15 each, and they're available at the police department, at the police station over there on South 10th Street, and also at the offices of the Santa Paula Times over on Davis Street. And they are accepting walk-ups, so or drive-throughs, I should say. If you don't get a ticket, you can drive through and give it a shot that you might be able to get a dinner, but they are trying to sell as many as possible right now, so they'll have a pretty good count. But you'll really enjoy it too, Chief Walker. I mean, it's a lot of fun, and people just really love the dogs. They, that, and they're such great animals, and they're great PR too, especially with kids and things like that. So.
Well, it's not every day that it's being a former canine handler. It's not every day that the officers and the new canines get a chance to have fun with the chief. So you might see the chief in a bite suit that night as part of the demo.
And of course, a bite suit is exactly what it means. You put yourself in a position to be a target, as it were, of the dog's training. Yeah, they're wonderful animals. Is there anything you'd like to add, Chief, or anything perhaps we should have asked you, or anything at all that you would like to mention?
No, I really want to thank you, Peggy, for the opportunity to come on and talk to the community. This is, again, unprecedented times we're working in, so being able to find different ways of communicating to the masses is always appreciated by this department and myself. And as we start coming out of our COVID restrictions, we're going to look to start implementing some more community-oriented based programs. Our Coffee with the Cop or Coffee with the Chief. Our Community Policing Academy. We're working on getting all of that stuff wound up so that once we can get back to meeting in person, we would love and invite you to come down and have a conversation. And normally you'll see me in the morning either grabbing breakfast or lunch at one of the facilities here or one of the businesses here. Please take time to come up and speak and say hi. Love to meet you. Love to hear. I've learned a lot of great history from the residents here in this community, and everybody I get to meet gives me a different portion of what Santa Paula means to them, and it only helps enhance my ability to provide quality service that this community both wants, needs, and desires.
Oh, that's very good. Well, thank you so much for visiting with us today. We appreciate it. It was your first visit, not your last, I might add, and we'll be glad to discuss things with you soon, I hope. And
yes, I look forward to it.
I hope so. This is Peggy Kelly. It's Mighty Santa Paula Times. This is Good Morning Santa Paula. This will be broadcast on cable channel 10, also on KADYTV.com, and on YouTube. You could make sure you subscribe because it's free, and it also helps us bring you more broadcasting like this. So everyone out there, you have a wonderful weekend. It's going to be a beautiful one. Stay COVID aware. Don't forget about that. It's still very important. And once again, Chief Walker, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you. Have a good morning.
You too. Thank you. Bye-bye, everyone.